let me just start off by saying that we should by now already have a movie based on Todd McFarlane's life. It should be directed by Christopher Nolan. Could you imagine how epic that movie would be? The amount of action that would happen there. And matter of fact, while we're at it, McFarlane should actually make an action figure based on himself. Wait, he already did that? Okay, well, I guess it's too late. Anyways, all jokes aside, let's get serious here for a second. I actually wanted to talk about a couple of things running down the pipeline when it comes down to McFarlane. And on a side note, we'll talk about an action figure line that I don't really cover too often, but they kind of popped up on my radar, and I wanted to give you guys a quick little heads up on these particular collectibles because I'm genuinely excited to see them in action figure form. Now, first of all, we are getting a new Rebirth Batman action figure as well as a Rebirth Batmobile. I'm very excited for this, and look, let's be brutally honest here. McFarlane is trying to get the most juice that he possibly can out of the DC line. It's nearing its end, and the fact that he's starting to essentially go back and kind of reissue action figures with minor upgrades, I think is a good and a bad thing. I think it's a double-edged sword, especially for people that already have the original one and now they're being offered a slightly upgraded version. I think it can get a little bit frustrating, but for people like me that were not collecting everything McFarlane was shelling out, this is a perfect opportunity for us to pick up like that Rebirth or whatever version of Batman or Superman you possibly could want with like a cloth wired cape. You can now do that. He did the exact same thing with the Noel Batman. He did a similar thing with the Action Comic Books Superman, where he took the original one, repainted it. I'm not sure if it's a different head sculpt, but I know for a fact it's just a repaint and then a wired cape. He may not be doing the same thing here. I kind of took a closer look at the image, and I'm not sure if it was the same body mold that we got previously for the Rebirth Batman, but it could be. I'm very bad at telling the differences between the body molds. Now, I was reading through the article on, I think it's Toy News International. If you guys want to check out their website, that's usually where I get some of my sources, either them or Toy Arc. But they actually did break down the fact that the Rebirth Superman is actually going to come with a few extras. It's going to come with like a grapple hook, a grapple gun, and then I think they mentioned an unmasked Bruce Wayne head sculpt, which is pretty exciting. I've said it before. There are certain characters, especially with the Marvel Legends line, where we've seen like so many different unmasked head sculpts. But Bruce Wayne head sculpts, I think those are like far and in between. We rarely get unmasked Batman action figures. I think the last one that we got was for that, I want to say it was that digital Build-A-Figure wave from McFarlane. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was like that alternate head sculpt that came with that figure. That's probably the only one that I can remember off the top of my head. There might be a few here and there, but it's nice to see unmasked head sculpts. And then obviously another Batmobile. We just got the live action Reeves Batmobile, which looks absolutely phenomenal. I already broke down that entire Batmobile and how frustrating it is that he's essentially selling it through his own website, but still it looks phenomenal. It's going to look incredible in anybody's collection or anybody's display. And now we're getting a Rebirth Superman Batmobile. I know a lot of people hate the Rebirth / New 52 era, and I completely understand why. I do remember reading a lot of the comic books, but that's kind of the era where I legitimately started paying attention to comic books. You know, obviously after that there were some great comic book runs, but Rebirth, New 52, that's kind of around the same time frame when I really started to get into comic books and reading them. I do have some pretty good like runs of the Suicide Squad and Superman and Batman and so on and so forth. So this is definitely very exciting to see. Even if I don't pick them up, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on that Rebirth Batman because I love the design. I love the look for that particular superhero. Now, moving on, I did want to touch a little bit on the new Boss Fights Hellboy action figure line. And we're getting 3 figures. These are supposed to be landing within that 1/12 scale. We're obviously getting a Hellboy with a couple of extra hands, the Hand of Glory, and a pistol with a holster. They're also offering a Lobster Johnson action figure with a couple of extra hands, an alternate head sculpt, 2 pistols, a holster, and a machine gun, as well as an amulet. And then lastly, they're offering a character that I dare not pronounce his name or attempt to pronounce his name because I feel like I'm going to absolutely butcher it. As you guys can tell, I'm not very well versed in some of the newer Hellboy comic book storylines. storylines, but this figure will come with a mallet, an alternate pair of hands, a blood chalice, and a blood queen hinged box. Now, I'm not 100% sure how accurate the scale for this character is, but he is much shorter than the other two. He stands at only about 4.5 inches and has 26 points of articulation. Whereas in the Hellboy action figure stands at roughly about 7.5 inches and has 27 points of articulation. Moving back to Lobster Johnson, he's going to stand at about 6.5 inches and is going to have a total of 24 points of articulation. And I guess this is the part of the video where I essentially just go on and rant about how expensive action figures are getting. I completely get Boss Studios is a much smaller company and they have to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to get a lot of these licenses, but still $60 for each one of these figures is quite a bit of a hefty price point. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like if these figures were any cheaper, I would buy every single one of them. I am always on the fence when it comes down to Hellboy action figures. I actually did grow up watching the original Hellboy films, and I absolutely love the few comic book storylines that I've read featuring Hellboy, but maybe these are not intended for me. I'm not the audience that they're trying to reach here, because this is quite a bit of a hefty price point, $60. They don't come with like an insane amount of articulation either. 27 points of articulation is pretty standard across most action figure lines. You may get some here and there that pop a little bit lower to like maybe 22 to 20, and then you have others that reach closer to about 30. But we have seen other action figure lines at about that $35 price point, much smaller manufacturers that even push the boundaries for articulation. We've seen them reach as high as like 30s. So the 27 points of articulation in the case of Lobster Johnson, 24 is actually kind of minimalistic here. Not to mention the accessories, you're just not getting a ton of different accessories. The sculpt work here, we really don't get like a ton of great images of either, and that mostly has to do with the promotional images and how they chose to go with like a more dark aesthetic. Every single image of almost every single character in this particular wave is like in a pitch dark room. Like, we can't really make out a lot of the detail, a lot of the paint job, a lot of the sculpt work, and I think that's a kind of a miss here, because they really should have taken advantage of the opportunity to really showcase these figures in, you know, some really good lighting around some really good displays or something along those lines. But at the end of the day, this is what they chose. Now, I'm not sure if these images are stock images directly from Boss Studios. These could be something that they received through Big Bad Toy Store, because that's the website that I'm personally utilizing. But regardless, I don't love the images, and I don't like the price points. I don't like the articulation scheme. I don't like the fact that these figures are really lacking in accessories as well. So I'm a little bit frustrated all around, because I have wanted to jump in to multiple different manufacturers and actually purchase a Hellboy action figure. I do want to display something in my DC display. I know he's technically not from the DC universe, but just throw him up there next to my Batman, or, you know, within my new Mortal Kombat wave, if I decide to jump in on the classics Mortal Kombat wave. That's kind of something that I really was looking forward to, but unfortunately, I don't know, at that $60 price point, I'm definitely gonna have to sit down and think about it. But as I said before, I'm all about trying different manufacturers, different lines, and this is one that kind of popped up on my radar and I wanted to talk about. I wanted to just essentially just josh around with it because I'm interested. They've definitely piqued my interest. I've waited this long to pick up a Hellboy action figure, and this may just be the line that I pick up just because I don't have to pay the ridiculous like secondary market prices. It's directly from the manufacturer, and $60, as I said, from Big Bad Toy Store. Other websites might have them a little bit cheaper, maybe 50, 55, but I'm assuming they're all going to be around that same price range. It's just kind of frustrating because, as I mentioned previously, this is a line that I was kind of interested in. I remember hearing teases and seeing promotional images for this, but actually seeing the listing for it, I don't know, I'm a little bit disappointed. But maybe as time goes by, as I see more images, as I see more in-hand reviews, they'll win me over, and, you know, I'll kind of bite the bullet and just purchase the Hellboy action figure. But it's definitely very exciting to continue seeing Hellboy get this much love. And all around, I think the action figure community is pretty happy right now. We're getting a ton of new collectibles. As I mentioned, we're getting obscure lines from the Hellboy universe, and then we're getting some more really intricate collectibles from McFarlane. We're getting another Batmobile. That's exciting, right? I mean, I think most people should be happy. Mattel, when they had the line, I can't even remember if they had any vehicles. They might have not had any for the entirety of the span of time that they had the license. And so to see McFarlane giving us this many vehicles, I think we have to commend him. He's made a lot of mistakes. He's had a lot of issues here and there, but some of these vehicles we can potentially reuse once the Mattel license, or once Mattel picks up the license again. To me, whichever angle you want to look at this from, it's a good thing. McFarlane is actually giving consumers a ton of new collectibles right before the license gives out, and it's exciting regardless. But as always, this is just my personal opinion, my personal take on this entire situation and all of the new reveals. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Let me know about the Hellboy action figures. Are they too expensive? Am I making too much out of nothing? Are you excited for more Batmobiles from McFarlane, or are you completely burnt out on it? Is your wallet asking for a little bit of mercy here? Very curious to see what you guys have to say. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, if you guys enjoy this type of rambling action figure content, make sure to stay tuned. We're uploading on a daily basis, and we absolutely love it. Stay safe out there. Make sure to enjoy the hobby, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.